My millionaire parents let their ex-con brother beat me for 13 years. You want to know how pathetic parents can be? Ever seen rich, powerful people get pushed around by their deadbeat relatives? I'm Sophia Martinez. My uncle is a security guard who spent 12 years in prison. My dad is CEO of a Fortune 500 company. My mom is chief of surgery at the city's top hospital. From 2009 to 2016, every time I reached for food at dinner, my uncle would slap my hands. My parents saw everything. Said nothing. This gave me deep psychological scars that lasted through college. I chose boarding schools just to escape. This year, fresh out of university, I came home for a graduation dinner. When I reached for food, my uncle tried his old trick again. I threw my chopsticks straight at his face. This time, I was done being their punching bag. Chapter 1. To celebrate my college graduation, my parents invited a few relatives and friends for dinner. Mom brought out the last dish, grilled salmon, smiling at me. "Sophie, eat up. I made all your favorites." I hadn't been home in months. My parents were clearly happy to see me. Dad opened a bottle of Dom Perignon. "Dig in. Your mother's been in the kitchen since dawn preparing for you." Looking at the steaming dishes, I felt a wave of nostalgia. After all these years, time had dulled most of my resentment. I nodded, reaching for my fork. That's when Uncle Carlos slammed his fist on the table, staring at me coldly. "Who said you could eat?" I jerked my hand back, heart racing. Chapter 2. To outsiders, my family was wealthy and respectable. Dad ran a successful company. Mom was deputy director and chief of surgery. We had money and influence. But Uncle Carlos? He was an ex-con security guard from the wrong side of town. All I knew was that he'd killed someone in a gang fight years ago. Served 12 years. Got out in 2009. Mom felt sorry for him, worried he'd go back to crime. So she brought him to live with us. She got him a job as Dad's driver. Supported him through marriage, kids, everything. That support continues to this day. I was 8 in 2009. Every meal, he'd slap my hands with his fork. He'd put on his authority act, lecturing me. "Elders haven't started eating. You dare touch the food? I'm disciplining you for your own good. Don't grow up offending people without knowing it. Don't think your parents' money will protect you forever. You need to learn respect." I was young. I didn't understand what he meant or why he said these things. So I started waiting for adults to eat first. But he'd still hit me. Confused, I'd ask why. Instead of explaining, he'd tap his empty glass. "Get me a drink. Sometimes, bring me a napkin." I didn't understand why he needed to order me around. What had I done wrong? But my upbringing taught me not to talk back to elders. So I'd just lower my head and pick at my food silently. Dad saw everything but said nothing. For a long time, I'd ask Dad why Uncle Carlos kept hitting me. Sometimes Dad stayed silent. Sometimes he'd repeat Uncle's excuses, telling me to follow the rules so Uncle had no reason to complain. But next time, Uncle always found new reasons to hit me. Eventually, I developed severe anxiety around meals. Eating became torture. I became withdrawn, nervous. Worse, Uncle started criticizing me in other situations too. Lecturing me in front of my parents, sometimes for hours. Since Uncle Carlos moved in, I hadn't had a single truly happy day. Life was constantly tense and oppressive. Chapter 3. When I started middle school, I chose boarding school. Only coming home occasionally helped my mental state improve. I was older. Could think for myself. I began resenting my parents. Why were they such cowards? Why did they let Uncle bully me? Why could Uncle, who depended entirely on us, treat our family with such contempt and order me around? Though I boarded, I still had to come home at least once a month. My resentment toward Uncle ran deep. I'd try to avoid him. Sometimes he'd eat out, sometimes Dad would take me to restaurants. I'll never forget winter break, 8th grade. I was playing in the backyard when I accidentally bumped into Uncle Carlos. He slapped my face with a ruler. My parents were watching TV in the living room. I instinctively tried to run. Uncle grabbed my jacket collar. "What are those eyes for? Stand right there. Don't move." I saw my parents glance over from the living room. I stood trembling as Uncle went inside. He came back with a thick plastic ruler. I went pale, tears already falling. I held out my shaking hands. Next second, the ruler cracked across my face. I was 14, at that age, where appearance and dignity matter. I couldn't bear this humiliation, being beaten like this in front of my own parents. The ruler alternated between my cheeks. I cried, begged, tried to back away. When I instinctively covered my face, Uncle yanked my hands down violently. I thought my parents would at least come out to intervene. They didn't. Through all my screaming and sobbing, they never even looked. I don't know how many times he hit me. I just remember my face splitting open, warm blood running down. My voice was hoarse from screaming. Uncle spat on the ground, shoved me down, and left. I broke down completely, crying on the ground for ages. When I finally went inside, face numb, my parents still sat watching TV. Their postures were stiff, unnatural. I called shakily, "Mom." Mom glanced at me quickly. Seeing my injuries, she stood up angrily. Fighting over nothing. So annoying. Then she pulled me to my room to treat the wounds. Dad never looked at me once. In my room, Mom applied medicine while commenting on my injuries. How did it get this bad? He really went hard. Your face is so swollen. This won't heal quickly. The more she talked, the more I cried. Mom, why didn't you come out? Mom's hand paused. Come out for what? To stop Uncle from hitting me. Mom pressed her lips together. After a long pause, don't run around next time. That's just how he is. Stay away from him. Heartbreaking response. But it was the first time Mom verbally acknowledged she didn't approve of Uncle's behavior. Often, compared to Dad's silence, Mom would actually take Uncle's side and criticize me. Even when that wasn't what she really thought. Chapter 4. Last year, my cousin stole $200,000 from my credit cards. Despite everyone begging me not to, I called the police. That was the first time Uncle Carlos showed fear. He cried, begged me not to press charges. My parents begged too, saying we're all family, let it go. I felt furious and helpless. We had a huge fight. I didn't come home for a long time after that. I thought Uncle's groveling would make him behave better. Instead, he got worse. At the dinner table sat not just my parents and Uncle's wife, but two of Dad's business partners. Uncle humiliating me in front of outsiders wasn't about putting me in my place yet, it was about embarrassing my parents, getting his power trip. But this time, his game was over. I haven't eaten yet. Who said you could start? Where are your manners? His voice cut through the quiet room, slapping my face while slapping my parents' faces harder. Uncle glared down at me. His wife looked smugly satisfied. This time, I looked directly at my parents. They looked embarrassed, then retreated into their usual cowardly silence. I laughed coldly. No backing down this time. I reached out again, picked up a piece of salmon, and ate it. My defiance was an open challenge. Are you deaf? Uncle slammed the table, glaring at me. The two business partners quickly tried to smooth things over. One stood up, putting a hand on Uncle's shoulder. Come on, Carlos, no need to get worked up over a kid. The executives, despite their high positions, were placating him. This fed Uncle's ego. His expression softened slightly as he leaned back, still arrogant. I destroyed his moment with one sentence. Why should I wait for you? What are you? Just a parasite living off my family. Everyone here knows what kind of person you are. No need to keep up the act. That hit his weak spot. His face turned red instantly. He shot up, pointing at my nose. You disrespectful little bitch. How dare you talk to an elder like that? I kept eating while mocking him. Someone who spews garbage calling himself an elder? Next second, the back of my hand got slapped hard. Burning pain made me drop the salmon. Uncle looked down at me, eyes full of satisfaction and mockery. As if saying, I can still put you in your place. I stood up and threw my fork straight at Uncle's face with all my strength, shouting, touch me again. I dare you. Everyone froze at my sudden rage. My parents looked shocked. Uncle's nose was bleeding from where the fork hit him. He realized what happened and stood up furiously. You've lost your mind. You dare hit me? I met his gaze without fear, sneering. You hit first. A thieving murderer ex-con thinking he's somebody. You think I'm still that little kid you could bully? Aunt Linda rushed over, pointing at me. You little bitch. How dare you hit your uncle? Slap. I backhanded her hard across the face. She held her cheek in disbelief. You hit me? I met her venomous glare, enunciating clearly, trash with dirty mouths deserve to be hit. Uncle went crazy, pointing at my mother. This is the daughter you raised? All that education for nothing. Hitting her elders. Mom immediately took off her apron, grabbing my arm. Sophie. How could you hit your uncle and aunt? Apologize now. I looked at her coldly. Apologize? You think I should apologize? I stood my ground, filled with years of anger, disappointment, and sorrow. Mom looked uncomfortable, urging, Sophie, your uncle is still an elder. You went too far. Apologize, we're still family. Mom's enabling of Uncle had reached a pathological level. Her parents had been working-class immigrants with traditional values favoring sons. Though Mom had changed her life through hard work and success, she couldn't shake that ingrained subservience. So she turned a blind eye to all Uncle's abuse. So she let Uncle bully me freely. But why should I suffer for that? I took a deep breath, voice dripping with sarcasm. You treat him like family. He treats you like an ATM and me like a punching bag. I won't apologize. And I'm refiling charges against his daughter for theft. She can rot in jail. Uncle and Aunt panicked. Aunt started crying. You're tearing this family apart. How can you be so heartless? The atmosphere turned deadly tense. Dad's face darkened as he tried to mediate. Enough, everyone calm down. But Uncle kept raging. You little bitch. I'll beat you no matter how old you are. He kicked my chair hard. The other two men held him back desperately. My parents did what they always did, one stayed silent, one covered her face crying. As if they didn't care whether Uncle's fists would actually land on me next. Maybe they thought I should be used to being hit by now. I laughed mockingly, suddenly feeling free. All these years, I never understood why my parents were such cowards around him. Actually, Mom enabled while Dad was the true coward. Given his position, people constantly sought Dad's favor, flattering and accommodating him. Dad commanded respect in business, handled things smoothly. But at home, facing Uncle, he was a pushover with no authority. Even though Uncle's relatives all had stable jobs thanks to Dad's connections. My cousins would be stuck in community college without Dad's recommendation letters. I couldn't understand it. I even posted anonymously online. The responses varied wildly. Some said Dad must have dirt on him affairs, illegitimate children. Some said I wasn't their biological child, so they didn't care about me. Others said. But my investigation disproved all of it. Now I had to believe they were simply, purely cowards. Since Uncle arrived, he'd taken advantage relentlessly. Not just escalating abuse toward me, criticizing everything. But also stealing, giving my things to his daughter, using Dad's name to throw weight around. He'd take our luxury cars to pick up women, street race. When he wrecked them, he'd call Dad to arrange towing and repairs. Even our grandparents' inheritance went straight into his pockets. Before, I pitied my long-suffering parents. Now, I only pitied my helpless younger self. Chapter 5. After Uncle and his family left, only 3 of us remained in the vast living room. Mom asked reproachfully, "You know your uncle's temper. Why provoke him?" I laughed coldly. "I want to ask you, why are you both such cowards? All these years, you knew Uncle was tormenting me. Why didn't you protect me? What are you so afraid of?" Mom was stunned by my outburst, then sighed helplessly. "He's my brother. Your grandparents made me swear to take care of him before they died. Can't you understand my position?" I shot to my feet, chair scraping harshly against the floor. "Understand? I've been understanding for over 10 years. Who understood me?" My voice echoed in the empty living room, carrying years of suppressed anger and hurt. "Mom, haven't I suffered enough?" Mom seemed to finally grasp my pain, tears in her eyes. "Sophie, I'm sorry. I failed you." Dad finally spoke, voice low and tired. "Sophie, calm down." I turned to face him directly. "Dad, I don't understand. You're so decisive at work. Why are you such a coward at home? What are you afraid of? Does he really have something on you?" Dad's face went pale, lips trembling, but he didn't answer. Mom quickly stepped forward. "Sophie, don't make wild guesses. Your dad." I cut her off. "All these years, Uncle's been taking advantage, bullying me, and you not only did nothing, you told me to endure it. Why?" The room fell deathly silent except for the clock ticking. Finally, Dad spoke hoarsely. "Sophie, there are things you don't understand. Then explain." I pressed on. "I'm an adult. I deserve the truth." Mom suddenly covered her face, sobbing. "Please don't, please." Looking at them, I felt utterly drained. So many times, I'd wanted to cut them off completely. I laughed bitterly. Parents who can't protect their own child, do you even deserve to be parents? They looked up at me, panic in their eyes. I grabbed my purse to leave, but Mom caught my arm. Her voice trembled with fear. "Sophie, where are you going? Are you abandoning us?" Dad stood up too. My heart ached. I wanted to be ruthless, but seeing her tear-stained face, I couldn't. They were still my parents. Cutting ties wasn't that easy. I turned back, seeing Mom's desperate hope, and softened slightly. "I'm not leaving. I'm gathering evidence." Mom released me, incredulous. "Evidence? You're still pressing charges against your cousin?" I nodded. "Not just her. I've reopened Uncle's old murder case. It wasn't manslaughter, it was premeditated murder. With proper evidence, he's looking at life minimum." Slap. Mom hit me across the face. This slap shattered the last of my familial feelings. Her eyes were full of hatred and blame. "You ungrateful brat. Destroying your own uncle over some petty discipline? How did I raise such a vindictive child? Are you even my daughter?" I held my cheek, lips twisting. These were my parents? Their love was so cheap, I'd long stopped hoping for it. I laughed coldly. Not anymore. Chapter 6. I cut ties with my parents, ignoring their pleas and apologies, and moved in with my boyfriend. My boyfriend Ethan was a lawyer. Fresh out of law school but already handling cases, with his own small firm. He was principled, with a strong sense of justice. The little care and warmth I'd experienced came mostly from him. Most of the evidence against my cousin and uncle came from his investigation. We spent days preparing the case, ready to file once everything was complete. The day after filing was our 2-year anniversary. Ethan went out for cake while I reviewed court documents at home. The doorbell rang. Thinking it was Ethan, I opened the door and got kicked in the stomach. Before I could get up, Uncle grabbed my hair. His dark face loomed over me. "Little bitch. Think you're tough now? Drop the charges or I'll beat you to death." Such arrogant words. I showed no fear, laughing coldly. "You dare touch me? Not satisfied with prison?" Uncle sneered proudly. "So what if I hit you? Your parents won't make a sound. They'll still beg for mercy for me." Then he beat me savagely. It hurt. God, it hurt. I was like a rag doll, thrown around and beaten. Thankfully Ethan returned in time, fighting him off and rushing me to the hospital. I was badly beaten. Large patches of hair ripped out, exposing bloody scalp. Bruises and swelling everywhere, soft tissue damage. When they put me on the stretcher, my face was unrecognizable. Chapter 7. When my parents visited the hospital, they knelt crying, begging me to forgive Uncle. Dad sighed. He's still an elder. Mom grabbed my hand urgently. He's my only brother. Ethan couldn't stand it anymore. He slammed down his water glass angrily. Sophie's your only daughter. Mom stopped crying, stunned. Ethan continued, eyes red with fury. Sophie's in the hospital beaten half to death, and you come here not to comfort your daughter but to plead for her attacker? Are you really her parents? Do you even love her? Dad's eyes reddened, voice strained. She's our daughter, of course we love her. Ethan scoffed. You claim love while abandoning her when she needed help most, playing coward. What kind of love is that? Do you deserve to be parents? Looking at my injuries, Dad finally broke down. As if suddenly awakening, he grabbed my hand crying. Sophie, Dad failed you. I'm so sorry for all these years. This was the first time I'd seen Dad truly cry. He kept gently touching my wounds, asking if they hurt. But I pulled my hand away, asking coldly, so why? That afternoon, I learned the truth. When Dad was starting his business, he was being harassed by competitors. Security was bad. Then, and Dad was too honest. His business kept getting sabotaged. Mom had cried to Uncle about it. Uncle was a gang member then, all swagger. To show off and establish dominance, he gathered his crew to confront the rival boss. He beat the man to death. Due to lack of surveillance and Uncle insisting it was a spontaneous fight, not premeditated, he got manslaughter instead of murder. 12 years in prison. So my parents always felt guilty toward Uncle. Hearing this, I understood. After prison, seeing Dad's success. Uncle's darkness grew. He believed if he hadn't gotten involved, he'd be just as successful as Dad. Gradually, he projected his twisted inferiority and resentment onto me. Uncle deliberately chose mealtimes to strike because it was the most primal, family power arena. He wasn't hitting my hand, she was testing my parents' submission. Each hand slapping made their guilt tangible. Every criticism reminded Dad, your clean success cost me 12 years in prison. And Dad's tolerance was paying hush money. Uncle's violence toward me was essentially living interest. Simply put, my parents let me absorb Uncle's rage to prevent him from seeking more dangerous revenge. But I should never have been the sacrifice for adult grievances. After explaining, Dad kept apologizing. Sophie, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have let you bear this alone. Mom cried too. We know you're hurt, but these things aren't that serious. You're fine now, aren't you? Her words infuriated me. Even now, she was hopelessly in denial. Do I need broken bones before I can fight back? Mom froze, shaking her head frantically. That's not what I meant. I stopped. Looking at them, saying coldly, I won't drop the charges. Leave. Mom's eyes widened. You're trying to kill me? I said, then die. Chapter 8. Realizing my parents couldn't persuade me, Uncle's family finally panicked. Days later, Uncle and Aunt entered my hospital room with ingratiating expressions. Gone was their previous arrogance. Ethan stood guard warily. Aunt smiled fakely. Oh dear, does it hurt? Your uncle really doesn't know his own strength. I gave him such a scolding at home, dragged him here to apologize. Uncle smiled obsequiously. Sophie, Uncle was wrong. I'm apologizing. We're family, let it go. I remained unmoved, lips curving mockingly. You beat me like this and think an apology will make me forgive you? They exchanged glances, asking carefully, what do you want then? I want you to kneel and apologize. Kowtow 4 times saying you were wrong. I was never kind. Repaying evil with good wasn't in my nature. My heart was full of hatred and desire for revenge, ready to explode. Their faces turned ashen. Aunt shrieked, making your uncle kneel. And kowtow? Aren't you afraid of bad karma? I laughed coldly. If you satisfy me, I might consider dropping charges. Hearing this, Uncle's face lit up like he'd found a lifeline. No problem. As long as you're satisfied. He knelt without dignity or shame, kowtowing while apologizing. I suddenly burst out laughing, telling Ethan, look, he's like a dog. Ethan looked at me with complex emotions, unsure what to say. Perhaps only he could see through my facade to the fear and brokenness beneath. Uncle stiffened, face ugly. But kept kowtowing through gritted teeth. After finishing, Aunt immediately teared up, pleading. That's enough, right? For my sake, let this go. If anything happens to them, how will I live? I sneered viciously. You're no better. Uncle's getting life for murder and assault. Your daughter's going to prison for theft. Aunt's face went rigid. You just promised to drop charges. We've humiliated ourselves, don't push it. I said flatly, I said might. Uncle finally exploded. You little bitch. Your parents are nothing to me. You think I'm afraid of you? I beat you once, I can do it again. He rolled up his sleeves charging forward, but Ethan grabbed him firmly. I laughed. Tell that to the police. Right then, footsteps sounded outside. Several officers entered. After showing badges, they asked, who's Carlos Rodriguez? Uncle backed away in terror. I didn't break any laws. You can't arrest me. The officer grabbed him sternly. You're under suspicion for assault and connection to an old case. Come with us. Uncle's daughter was detained. I refused all visitors. After healing and leaving the hospital, we went straight to trial. With solid evidence, the court reopened the old case. Multiple charges combined. April 1, 2025, Uncle was sentenced to life in prison. My cousin got 3 years for returning the stolen money. When the verdict came, I took a deep breath, feeling unprecedented relief in my chest. I heard Aunt went crazy after that, spewing vicious curses about me. I didn't care. Life seemed back on track. I studied hard for grad school abroad while rookie lawyer Ethan worked on building his practice. During this time, family called constantly. I rejected them all, eventually blocking them. The last time I saw my parents was at the airport before my flight. I don't know how they found out, but they looked different. Especially Mom, her hair had gone completely white. They stood at a distance, just staring at me. I thought she'd look at me with hatred, or run over for a hysterical confrontation. But no, she just stared blankly, like she didn't recognize me, or like she was trying to memorize my face. Dad's lips moved like he wanted to say something, but in the end just waved. I showed no reaction, pulling my suitcase toward the gate. Walking firmly, just like I would in my future life. The end.